Hello, it is on this day, February 3rd, 2023, that I am co-opting a video about polyamory, because even though I myself identify with polyamory, I haven't had experience with it, so I felt like I couldn't comment on it myself, so I brought someone else to comment on it. We'll get to that in a bit. But just a reminder, my name is Cove, I use he, him pronouns. I am trans, asflux, bi, and probably poly. It's just, it hasn't come up. There we go.
It's a very situational thing, polyamory. My name is Solus. I go by any all pronouns. I am pan, I am gender fluid, I am polyamorous, and I am currently in a polyamorous relationship, long distance. I have 4 partners that are scattered across the country, funnily enough, and I am here to talk about it. Woo! Yay!
So how this is organized, I have a list of some questions, but along the way we're just going to get into like some discussions and some other topics, I'm sure, guaranteed. It's going to happen.
Just knowing us.
But I do have general questions, and they're mostly questions for like the general polyamorous crowd, stuff that some people would want to hear about, or maybe people at a different level can also be interested in this information. So the first one, I figure we might as well start off with like how you define polyamorous to you.
I mean, I think I define polyamory in a way that a lot of people do. It is a consensual romantic relationship that involves more than one person. Usually you see it in thruples or triads, where it's 3 people in a dating sort of relationship rather than 2. More rarely, in cases like mine, you can see more than 3 people in a web of that sort of thing. It comes in many shapes and sizes. Sometimes all the people involved in a polyamorous group are dating. Sometimes it's just that some of them are dating and others of them are just friends, and it varies very widely from group to group. I would say polyamory hinges on a deep amount of respect and trust between all members involved. And yeah, it's any other relationship except with an extra layer of complexity, because we like doing things in hard mode. Like, no, the queer is first tier of hard mode, then you add polyamory on top of it. It's like an extra couple sprinkles.
Every new identity is adding another hard mode for me.
Yeah,
I feel every time.
I feel that.
All right. So what's kind of annoying is that you answered my second question already. But
you could ask me it anyway.
Would you like to elaborate more on like apart versus web setups, like for people who don't understand what you mean by that? Like,
well,
I can also elaborate too.
Yeah, I can talk about that a little more deeply. So basically what is meant by that is, take for example the triad, which I mentioned, which is like 3 people. There's 1 person at each corner of this triangle. It could be that this person at the top is dating this person on this side and this person on this side, but the 2 people on the bottom are not actually dating or in a romantic relationship or anything like that. They could just be friends or just people that agree to know each other and agree that they are both dating this person. As opposed, so yeah, it's like a broken triangle, as opposed to like all 3 of them considering themselves as dating both of the other 2 people in the relationship. I've been...
Do that with 4?
Yes, you can absolutely do that with 4.
With 6?
the hand shapes get a little sphere. That's the sphere. I've been in a situation where I was in a polyamorous relationship where not all of us were dating, but some of us were dating other people, and we started talking to those other people, and then slowly over time it evolved into all of us forming connections and becoming the conglomerate, so to speak, that is now part of my everyday life, and I'm very happy about it. But, you know.
Is there a word for that? Like a polyglomerate?
Polycule is the one that I hear thrown around a lot. I personally am not extremely fond of words like polycule or whatever, because it dehumanizes the people involved a little bit. I feel like, I usually refer to them as my partners, or my partners and I, or things like that. But, you know, it's all just language. It's whatever floats your boat. I use the term polycule sometimes because that's what the community uses, and it's succinct, it's simple, it gets the point across. So just kind of depends on the situation you're in.
And then I do have an adjacent question, because I was thinking about this recently, like regarding myself. Maybe you don't have experience with this, but I'm just asking about the possibility. Do you think there could be a scenario where we have the disconnected dating? And do you think these people cannot get along and still have it be okay?
Absolutely. Well, to make it still all work out in the end, that takes a lot more communication, I feel like. I think one of the main reasons polyamorous relationships fall apart is because these two don't get along and people can't figure out how to deal with it. And that could happen for a variety of reasons. It could just be that those two personalities don't intersect. It could be due to jealousy or disagreements about how the relationship's being run. Could I imagine a hypothetical where that situation works out? Maybe. It would take a lot of communications and a lot of hoops. I would say for the most part, if things aren't working out like that, then maybe people should consider figuring out something else than just letting that go on. Because, the longer these two are fighting with each other, the more damage that does to everyone involved, including the person at the top. The hinge. The hinge. Because, yeah.
And I definitely, another side comment, just saying it for the camera. I definitely know scenarios too where there's two people who are together and like other people can like come in and they don't have like they've talked this out, they have given consent about this, but they don't ever introduce the other person to the other person.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But that works for them because they talk it out, which is something we're going to emphasize later is communication.
Yes, communication's incredibly important.
For sure.
But yes, I do agree that I've seen situations where it's just like this one person is dating more than one person, but the people they're dating don't necessarily have to know each other, as long as they know about each other. That's the important part.
Consent.
Consent's important.
All the way. All right. Question number... I'm going to change the order. All right,
improv moment.
Because you brought up jealousy, so we might as well go to that one.
Fair enough. I think there's this myth around the polyamorous community that we don't get jealous, that people in polyamorous relationships are always like 100% okay with what's going on between their partners and things like that, and that's a lie. Human beings are human beings. We all get jealous of each other, and it doesn't even have to be romantic relationships. Like, everyone's had an experience where you get jealous because your friend's spending more time with their friend than with you. It's completely normal. Jealousy is something that I think a lot of polyamorous people go through, and people in polyamorous relationships might feel a lot of personal guilt about feeling jealousy. I know I've had that experience personally where I'm like, oh, I shouldn't feel about this because these are the people I care about and they should be allowed to do what they want and be happy and blah, 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 blah. It's okay to have a sense of your own self-worth, I think, is the important thing to keep in mind in those moments. And if you're not happy with something that's going on in a relationship, it's your responsibility to stand up for yourself and be able to say something isn't working and we should talk about it. So, yes, jealousy, I think, is not something that you need to be ashamed of. Jealousy is an indicator that something is wrong. It's like when you pinch somebody. It's the human pain receptor, but for your brain. You should be able to say, okay, ouchie, something's poking me, and I should deal with it. So, yeah, I think jealousy is too often demonized, and we should be able to see it as like an opportunity to be like, okay, let's figure out why I'm feeling this way. Let's figure out what's going on and how we can fix it.
Initiate a conversation.
Exactly.
Because all of this is built on
communication. Wow. Segue?
You can see our budget here.
She said budget. Budget time. Yeah.
Segue? Communication.
Segue.
We can start from the start. What is the first thing you need to communicate?
The first thing, well, I guess that depends where you are in your timeline of polyamory. First, you need to make sure that you're considering polyamory for the right reasons. One of the common stereotypes, negative stereotypes that you see of polyamory is that someone wants to be polyamorous because they want to be able to cheat or on their significant other with other people. It's one I've seen a lot.
Dang.
You'd be surprised that polyamorous people are considered cheaters, and I won't deny that I'm sure that this has happened to people, and that's awful, but you need to make sure that it's not that kind of reason that you're considering polyamory in the first place. You need to be talking about polyamory in a way with each other. You need to bring it up to your partner and be like, hey, I want to try an open relationship, or there's a lot of people that advise against starting polyamory for a specific person. In my case, I see that there's a bit more nuance to that because me and my boyfriend started polyamory because of a specific person that we were both into.
Yeah.
And they were into both of us.
I've seen that happen before. Like, there are times that works, for sure.
Yes. It shouldn't be a generalization because you shouldn't be wanting to go into polyamorous because you want to be with some random person that your partner doesn't really know anything about. I feel like that's a good boundary to have. But the first step is just talking about polyamory with your partner and determining if they'd even be into it in the first place. If that's something they're interested in, because a lot of people just want a monogamous relationship, and that's okay. And you shouldn't have to force polyamory upon them.
Yes.
Once you have that out of the way, then you need to make sure that you're clearly communicating, like, okay, if we're starting an open relationship, then what are the boundaries about that open relationship? Like, who are you or I willing to talk to about this, and what are the boundaries with starting those relationships? Like, how intimate are we planning on going with that? It's important to have those first steps so that you don't go in all at once and trip over your own feet and fall on your face. If you're in a situation where it's like with me, where me and my boyfriend both wanted to date this person that we were both into and they were into us, all three of us had to extensively communicate what the boundaries were between us. Because the important thing about polyamory that you have to keep in mind is that when you only have two people dating, there's one relationship back and forth that needs to be maintained. And one relationship is already a lot of work. You add another person to that, you aren't adding one relationship to the pile, you're adding two, because that third person has a relationship with this person and they have a relationship with this person. The triangle's just becoming a thing for this video, I guess.
This is the symbol.
So you're adding two relationships to the mix that have to work out and have their own unique sets of boundaries that need to be set up. If you add a fourth person to a polyamorous group, that's adding 3 new relationships to the pile. So the bigger your group gets, and I personally would not suggest going over 5 where I'm at, because I personally am not looking for any other partners in my life.
Touché.
But, you have to keep in mind that the more people that you add into a group of people, the more relationships need to stay at least neutral to positive in order for that collective group to work out well.
That doesn't really segue into anything. So, bonk, bonk, bonk. Let's loop back to you. Okay. Interrogation time.
Interrogation hours. I'm being held hostage.
How did you know?
How did I know? Okay. So.
Story time.
Yes, story time indeed.
Tell me, Guru.
Me and my boyfriend, he was the first one I got together with. We took it kind of slow with our online relationship. For context, all of my partners live in different states, so we don't get to see each other very often, so it's all very much long distance. So keep in mind that I'm saying all of this with that particular lens on this. My boyfriend and I took it very slow. We were in a relationship for about 2 months, I want to say, before the idea of polyamory even came up. That being said, my boyfriend and I had been in this friend group with other people that we talked to a lot online, and my partner, we'll call them partner 2. Partner 2. Just for the sake of not throwing their names into this. Ty and I were very good friends with this person. And I think a lot of people have experienced this thing where you're very good, deep friends with someone, and then sometimes at some point you hit the point where you're like, oh no, is this something more or not?
I'm getting called out as a demi person.
Yeah, I'm afraid it happens for polyamorous relationships too. And it wasn't really until all three of us suddenly went, wait, are we all getting those vibes at the same time? That things finally kicked into motion. Yeah, and so I think, how do you know that you have the feels for someone in a polyamorous lens? It's like asking, how do you know you have the feels for someone in a monogamous lens? It's just really difficult to know sometimes. And sometimes it's super obvious. Sometimes you're just like, oh yes, I really enjoy this person and I want to pursue a relationship with them. But in my personal experience, the development of my relationships has always been very slow, very gradual, a decent, it like so much so that it's like, is there really a specified anniversary date? I don't know.
Just pick one.
It's just, at some point we just started considering each other in a relationship, and that was just kind of how it was after that. That being said, I'm not encouraging people to, be super vague about your feelings with people on purpose and, make them unsure about what's going on. If you have feelings for someone and you know that you want to pursue that relationship with them, I would highly suggest just saying it.
Communicate.
Wow, it came back again!
Done.
Holy shit! I'm sorry, my bad.
No, it's all good.
This is YouTube.
Communicate.
This is YouTube.
I curse
We
in my
can't
other
say
videos,
those
it's fine.
things on YouTube. But yeah, it's just like, how did I know that I was falling for these people? I don't know. I just kind of realized it at some point, and it was like, oh, that's been going on a while, and it was a very big surprise to everyone involved. But it all somehow worked out, I guess. Working out still, hopefully. Oh my.
Oh Lord. There's opportunity is something I want to emphasize.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I've heard this described by other polyamorous friends I have. Sometimes you have to take an opportunity if you see it there and bring up the conversation, because if you don't bring up the conversation, the opportunity might go away.
Yeah, exactly. There's such a social stigma against polyamory, and I do think there's something behind that, because people historically have used polyamory as an excuse for atrocious acts.
Things.
Utterly atrocious. And, in some ways people are still using polyamory as an excuse for doing bad things. So I can understand where the social stigma against polyamory comes from, but you have to keep in mind that if polyamory is practiced in a safe, healthy, consensual way, then it's fine. It's completely fine. And the only thing that is stopping you from bringing up that conversation is yourself. And if your partner and potential partners aren't into it, that's fine too. That's their own choice. It's their own life. So
there doesn't have to be anything lost for a no. I mean,
exactly.
I feel that even just talking to friends, usually can we hang out? There's that clenched feeling for other social anxiety people, clenched feeling of oh no, they're gonna say no. What's the bad thing about them saying no?
Exactly. You can just hang out later. And, okay, there's the fear of you ask your partner, how do you feel about polyamory? And it makes things a little awkward. If your relationship is otherwise stable and sound, that awkwardness will go away eventually. And if your partner has, you'll talk it out. You'll figure it out, is my feeling on the matter. Even if polyamory is no longer something that's on the table for that relationship, that's okay. Segue.
We got a segue. You mentioned awkwardness of telling your partner about this possibility.
Yes.
Coming out as polyamory. Do you have to come out to your partner? Do you have to come out to friends if you explain this to them?
It depends very much on the person you're talking to.
And that. Ooh.
Yes. And I would say that you do not necessarily have to come out to your partner that you're polyamorous if you're not actively looking for a polyamorous relationship. That's my personal feeling on the matter. If you are feeling the burning need to tell your partner that you are polyamorous, and that if you don't tell them now, it's going to hang on you, then that's fine. That's okay. But I would certainly say that if you want to pursue a polyamorous relationship, yes, talk to your partner about it. And maybe even talk to your partner about it before you start, looking at potential ways to find that third partner, whoever they may be. Because it's important. Again, boundaries are important with this sort of thing.
And communication.
Communication and boundaries are important. And the earlier you get that conversation going, the better, because then that means that there's more layers of understanding between the two of you. When it comes to friends, I've had mixed luck with coming out to friends. I would say it's just purely sort of the, your preference on whether you're comfortable talking to someone about that. I have had plenty of perfectly fine friendships where they don't know I'm polyamorous. They just know that I have a partner, and I talk about the partner in somewhat vague terms sometimes. But, I avoid plurals and I avoid names, and it's fine. They know I'm in a relationship, and, there's this thing in society where it's like every friend you have must know everything about your romantic relationships all of the time. I hate it. That's not even true with monogamous relationships. You don't owe your friends your love life. You don't. So, it's true of monogamy, it's especially true of polyamory, because, I have had friends who sort of tilt their heads at me and go, that's a little weird. When it comes to family, my family does their best to be understanding. There are certain things that happen when you try to bring one partner home, and then you bring a different partner home, and we're not getting into all of that, because that's...
for a later date, for a more complex.
But for family, it's the same as your friends. You don't necessarily owe them your love life, and I think an easy mistake to make is to be like, they must be updated on everything that's going on with me. Not necessarily the case. In a professional setting, I tend to avoid saying that I am polyamorous, just because, there are social stigmas against it, and there are assumptions that people make. And if it comes up later, that's fine. But if I'm trying to get a job, then that person doesn't need to know that about me anyway.
This is true.
And most people aren't really looking to hear your love life when they're trying to hire someone to do a job anyway. So why bring it up and make things messy,
Points being made.
Yeah.
All right. We have hit past the 25-minute mark.
Wow,
so
content.
We begin the wrap up.
I see.
Any advice for your polyamorous?
My poly comrades.
Poly comrades, that's a better phrase than whatever I was gonna say.
The comrades. No, don't.
No.
That's awful. I'm so sorry. I know we've been beating people over the head with it the whole video long, but just communicate. The more you talk, the more you know what's going on, the more you know about how people are feeling, and the less likely it is that things burn up in flames. Because I've certainly seen that happen with polyamorous relationships, and it's because people didn't communicate that they were unhappy with things. So, talk to people, talk to your partners,
and
be open about things.
I also want to add on, for someone like me, if you sometimes struggle to communicate, then communicate that you sometimes struggle to communicate.
Yes, and talk about the ways in which you can make that communication easier. I know that, just because of the nature of my relationship, a lot of our communication happens through text. And so all of us have become very intimately familiar with our various texting habits and what they mean and things like that. But, it's just like any relationship. If you have this one thing that seems a little odd on the outside but allows you and your partner to be on the same page, absolutely take advantage of that. Who cares? It helps you both be happier in the long run. And yeah, I think, it's important for everyone to be on the same page when it comes to these things.
And then yeah, something I'm just going to add to the summary on top of communication is just be open to the opportunities that come along. Be open to talking to your partner about this. You may be the person where your partner's bringing this up to you, and just you have to make that choice to be able to listen and be able to be open to communicating about this, even if you don't think it's something or it's not something you've ever thought about before.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's worth in being open-minded.
Yeah. And it also helps to be open-minded, in this, and also just, keep in mind that, polyamory does get messy, and that's okay. Just like any relationship, things get messy sometimes, things go wrong sometimes, and that's all right. It is ultimately not the end of the world. Just to add on to that. If things go wrong, it's fine. You're doing great. Breathe.
You're doing great.
You're doing great, sweetie.
And talk it out and communicate.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
All right. Do you have any last farewells or comments?
No. Thank you for having me. Thank you for. Hopefully this was helpful to someone and not just me rambling at a camera for 30 minutes straight. I know that's your whole channel brand, but
I know. If you
hopefully this had some nugget of worth in it.
And if you have any questions, you can ask me and I can forward them to Solus, which is spelled Solus.
Yes, it is indeed. Or you can find me on Discord. My tag is just SOLUS Solus, and then my number is 2107. So
that's pretty close to mine.
Have you ever seen us in the same room until now? Has this just been an edit cut the whole time? Discuss.
Okay. Any questions, toss them in the comments. I read them pretty much whenever I get the text notification that someone left a comment. Sometimes if I haven't replied yet, it means I'm still thinking of my reply. But I will reply. Unless it's a comment I don't know how to reply, and then that happens.
Then that's just tough luck.
Dang. Alright, that was it for this video. If you want more Solus, tell me. We can arrange that.
I can sit here and talk more.
Have a good one.
Bye.